Evening folks, we're in Blackheath SE3 in London, taking a small walk around on this lovely late spring evening. Many have said that the name Blackheath came from it being used as a mass burial ground. That was in the 1300s for victims of the Black Death, but that is a myth. The name Blackheath was used about 300 years before that. It was probably because of the dark soil. Heather would grow here. So Blackheath, the Black Heather. Right in the distance there is Shooter's Hill. And it was a real spot for highwaymen. The travel in this area was already pretty hazardous in the 1600s, and no proper paved streets really. But from the late 1600s to the 1800s, this part of the country was a barren wilderness. Lots of traffic and a Roman road going right through it. Perfect for highwaymen, like Dick Turpin, on horseback, stopping carriages, carrying a flintlock pistol, crying "stand and deliver," taking your money, and then riding off into the dark heath in the distance. We continued on in that direction. We'd be in Greenwich. In 1884, longitude was established in nearby Greenwich. So this area is synonymous for the meridian line. Basically all time in the world is measured from here, Greenwich Mean Time. So of course we're in London. About 6 miles, 10 kilometres from the centre of the West End. As I said, about a mile from Greenwich. This area is quite upmarket now. An expensive area on the outskirts of London, with enough greenery to keep folks happy and enough good transport links for workers to get into town. And if we travelled around the outskirts in a circle from here, we'd go through places like Richmond, Wimbledon, Kew, Hampstead, all with a similar feel, green yet urban. Probably the most important historical moments in this area were rebellions, rallying points because of its size, its viewing points, and possibly again escape routes for people like Dick Turpin, but also people who were protesting and campaigning. One of the first was the Peasants' Revolt in 1381. It was led by a man, one Wat Tyler, who led a group of rebels from Canterbury, 50 or so miles away, to Blackheath. This area was the meeting point. They were marching to London. Why? Well, to oppose what we would now call a poll tax, P-O-L-L, a tax on individuals. So the same amount, whatever the income, vastly unfair. And they were marching to institute social reform, to end serfdom. Serfdom is the idea if you were a servant, then your ancestors were servants and your children would be servants. King Richard II, who was then only 14, met with Tyler in central London, agreed actually to quite a lot of the demands. Tyler, it seems, at one point did insult the king. And at one point he felt insulted, and it ended with a fight and Tyler's death, his head on a spike, carried around London, and the king going back on his promises. And we fast forward 70 years to the reign of Henry VI. Again a group from Kent, again a social uprising for the rights of the working classes, and again a beheading and a displaying of a head on a spike in London. And this time the leader of that revolt was Jack Cade. 2 years later, Henry VI himself camped here, 24,000 men here on the Heath, waiting to ambush his cousin, the Duke of York, who had made a challenge to the throne. Again, fast forward, 1497, Henry VII stopped the operation of the Cornwall tin industry, and the Cornish rebels marched to here. And because of sickness and death and desertion, their numbers dwindled. They got a lot lower. They lost many men in what we now know of as the Battle of Blackheath. In the late 1550s, Queen Mary decides to marry Philip of Spain and a man named Thomas Wyatt, a politician, roused a relatively small army. He disagreed with the marriage and the new friendship with Spain, and they gathered here as well. They were soon defeated. And there are many more. The Kentish Petition of 1642, the Gordon Riots in 1780. The Gordon Riots were probably the closest this country has ever come to a full-on revolution. It was motivated by anti-Catholic sentiments. Then Chartism in the 1830s, a movement to achieve political rights for working classes. The suffragette meetings were held here, and the rallies in the early 1900s, the pillar box outrages, as they were known. Then the poll tax gatherings here in the 1980s. Climate change. So it's a historical area for rebellion and revolution. From my point of view, there aren't many places in England with as much rebellious history as Blackheath. It seems that York is up there too. Revolt, revolution, the rights of workers, the freedom of the people. Let's lighten the mood. Every year, an enormous fireworks display is held here on November the 5th. Wonderful festival named On Blackheath is held here in the summer, music festival. It's also a main starting point for a lot of charity runs, including the London Marathon. Under a lot of southeast England, oil has been discovered. It's been discovered here. It's said there could be up to 150 million barrels per square mile. But I won't expect the oil wells to be appearing here soon. It's a protected site. It's a conservation area. And at the heart of Blackheath is All Saints Church. The architect was Benjamin Ferry. Beautifully lit at this time of the evening. Designed in a Gothic revival style. And it opened on All Saints' Day, November the 1st, 1858. At the end of the 1500s, Queen Elizabeth I was in discussions to marry James VI of Scotland. And of course, the marriage never happened, but they were discussing it. And James and his courtiers gathered in this area. The diplomats, the entourage, and they played a game that we now call golf. And where we started this walk, a bit further up, was the Royal Blackheath Golf Club, founded in 1608. And it's the oldest golf club still in continuous use in the world. The oldest hockey club in the world is also here, in Blackheath. And the oldest rugby club in the world here too. I hope you enjoyed our little walk around Blackheath this evening. Do join me again. Do like this video. Click on like, comment if you fancy, and subscribe to my channel at Intermission Tours. And I'll see you again very, very soon.